All right. That is my cue to literally take us into Module 3, which is the module on eradication. I'll take the first couple of minutes to provide just a little bit of context. I know we have more folks that have joined us online as well as in person. I'll have Alex provide a very quick summary of what's happened so far, and then we'll dive right into it. This module is based on eradication, and no pun intended. The idea is to literally derail the attackers who have derailed our system, metaphorically. As you can see, same process. We have advisors who have taken on different roles. I will just go through this very quickly so that you know who's playing what role, and it'll pop up on the screen as well. I do want to, and I've thrown a bit of a curveball on the siberX team here, AV team. You will forgive me, or I will pay you back with lots of cookies and butter chicken, if that's your preference. I have had to make a couple of replacements. I will advise you on what those replacements are. So AV team, if you can just take a couple of minutes to sync up. I'm sorry, I do these things just like these attackers are doing things to the STS system. So joining me on stage from the advisory, of course, myself. We have Kim Schreider, Communications Officer for STS. Welcome, albeit late to the party. We were supposed to have our Chief Risk Officer, Mirza Beg, to join us as well, but given all of the transit delays, Mirza has given up on everything, including life, and said, forget it, F it, I'm out of here, and is not responding to any calls. So we don't have Mirza here. We have Nilesh, who is the digital forensics investigator. Nilesh has been messaging us quite a lot in our war room chat and says, I need this and I need that ASAP. We understood ASAP as slow as possible. So Nilesh, I'm sorry, but now you're on stage. You can ask your questions here. Maybe we will come back to you. Vivian takes on the role of the technical response director, and I do want to give a shout out to Vivian as well. Vivian, you've been managing interviews as well in the other room, so thank you for doing that. I was watching it on LinkedIn as well. Fantastic! Thank you for all of your support. Vivian, you'll be playing a very sharp hand with Yusuf Patel, our Chief Operating Officer. A lot of our chief officers here are bald. As you can see, why, I don't know, but that wasn't by design, but maybe the role does that to you. So we have Yusuf as the Chief Operating Officer. Now, Faris Adi, some of you may know him, a very well-respected name in security. He isn't here, could not make it due to a commitment that came up last minute. So, all the way from Calgary, James is going to play the role of the CISO. So siberX team, if you can take a note of that, James will play the role of the CISO. I know it's a little bit last minute, so if you just want to have his name pop up, that'll be fine. Whatever you can do, I'll appreciate it. And again, sorry for this last minute curveball. Obviously, we have Alex, who is doing the chaos engineering side. We have Shrey with the SOC, and then we have Lionel, who is going to take on the role of the business continuity lead. Lionel, you're stepping into the role from your fellow friend from Ottawa, George Alcura. George is stuck in LA while we deal with this situation. But thank you so much for stepping up. I truly appreciate your willingness and the organic nature of you stepping into this. And last but definitely not the least, I was with him on stage in Vancouver. We shared some very insightful conversations. Lucas Silva from Trend Micro, I appreciate you hopping in. Just for your reference, we have folks from the LATAM region who have also joined online. So any phrases in Spanish or Portuguese, feel free to throw them into the mix. With that, AV team, if I get a thumbs up from you, I apologize once more. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you can just take the next minute to really quickly summarize, where did we end from a containment standpoint?
Well, welcome back from lunch. Lucky that you guys had one. We didn't. We've been working pretty hard. We left off Module 2 determining and finalizing some containment decisions. You know, during an incident, it's not as cut dry as obviously do X, Y, and then Z. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with an incident, you don't actually have these clear indicators of compromise and clear direction, whether you have it written down in a plan or not. It's really about trying to make the best decision of a series of challenging decisions to make. In this scenario, we were looking to contain what we understood are compromised portions of our digital platform. We still weren't sure of the actual cause, but we did believe that we can start shutting down some microservices to at least stop the visual of the compromise, potentially not actually limiting other impacts. The challenges there, though, is it was never tested to turn off certain parts of this system. There's a lot of interdependencies between all these microservices, and that's something that we are going to be learning from an operational side. What happens when you turn one piece of the puzzle off? Does it do nothing? Does it do something? Does it do something we don't know? But we do need to do some containment action because we do want to make sure that we're limiting the blast radius. And that's also not just a technical problem, but also a PR problem. We want to be limiting what the optics look like from our degraded environment and system. So for this module, it is about eradication. Now, we're going in there not knowing exactly what the problem is, what the root cause is, but we are going to need to get to that and then make a decision on how we can remove that threat and prepare the business to resume operations. Back to you, Ali.
Yeah, good firewall is definitely cheaper than the train delays that we're experiencing right now. And I can tell you very shortly that we will start to see the National Economic Impact Counter coming up any moment right now, which will show you the impact of what has happened so far. I understand, and even online, there's still some fuzzy areas, what has happened, what is not, and we'll try our best to go into the depths of this. With that said, before we go into the details and we get our first media release, Lucas, I just want to bring you into the conversation. We will be sharing a lot of the trend micro reports that you've shared with me with the audience, but based on what you've heard so far, what's the number one priority for eradication right now?
Actually, that's a great question. And I'll ask that to Trey and Alex, because I believe Vivek ended it very well, because we are moving towards eradication, but we didn't perform containment yet, right? We don't know a lot of things. We have more unknowns than knowns at this time. And I believe we should start looking at what kind of extra information we can find out. And then I would be interesting to see, at least in this model, whatever the SOC was able to identify. Now that also we have a forensic analyst, what he was able to identify from the logs that he was able to analyze, from the forensic artifacts that was able to collect, and move on from there and see what else we can do to stop the bleeding and get things back to work.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Looking forward to your perspective. We also have the Chief Operating Officer here who has a lot of questions. So before we dive into it, I know, Yusuf, you have a lot to add, but I do need to bring our attention to ODTN News. We're into the evening hours of this right now, and the media has a lot to share with us. So let's tune into what Roshan has to say.
Good afternoon. I'm Roshan Khan with ODTN News. Reporting from the center of a city still trying to regain its footing. siberX transit systems officials are now saying that the active threat has been neutralized, but on the ground, the situation is far from resolved. Lines still wrap around stations, buses are overcrowded, and delays remain widespread. STS has confirmed it has regained control over the PA systems and is coordinating with multiple vendors to bring core services back online. Technical crews are still manually resetting and restoring key components across the network. a sign that digital stability is not yet fully restored. But one of the biggest challenges emerging now is staff safety and uncertainty. Transit workers, many of them unionized, say they no longer know who to take direction from or how to verify whether the system is truly secure. Several employees have gone to their union expressing that they do not feel safe returning to work, even as digital services begin to reappear. ODTN News spoke to STS CEO Sean Raza briefly, and here's what he had to say.
Thank you for having me. I want to ensure the public that we've successfully stabilized the most critical parts of our infrastructure. Our technicians are on the ground across the entire network, manually restoring core systems one by one. This isn't just a reset, it's a controlled, safety-focused rebuild to ensure no hidden faults remain. Now we're moving carefully, deliberately, and with full oversight. Our priority right now is the safety of the passengers and the staff, and we will not bring the systems fully online until we are confident everything is secure and operating as intended.
Meanwhile, many commuters are still skeptical. After a morning filled with panic, cryptic messages, and system failures, fear of sabotage continues to loom. Despite assurances, confidence has not yet returned. The city is anxious, staff are hesitant, and commuters are demanding clarity as Toronto waits to see whether this crisis is truly nearing its end. I'm Roshan Khan with ODTN News. Stay with us as we continue tracking this developing story.
Kim, I just want to throw this out there that this messaging that went out and the interview that our dear esteemed leader had delivered was not something that was run by you. Just going to leave that with you as we turn it over to Yusuf. Yusuf, I think you had a lot to say. I know you've had a hard time getting into the war room. You're here now. Sorry, the STS helicopter is not operational either, so you had to walk, but you're here. I know you're not in a good mood, so fire away.
I don't know if buckle up is the way to start, but I'd say there's a lot of embarrassment that I'd say we should feel around the response so far, and I'd say that starts with our duty to the public in terms of the number one priority we have, which is public safety, right? Throughout the day, and I think we're in the early evening now, so that gives us probably about 12 hours of time that we've gone through debating, is it an incident? Is it an event? What are we going to do? What are we going to shut down? But we're still in a position where we haven't even gotten our network back. At least that's my perspective based on the update that I got on the phone while we were walking here, right? So my first question, and this goes back to our CISO, which is what have we done to actually isolate the public safety systems from the rest of the network, because that's the number one priority. Two, I've authorized our technical director to shut down any systems that are unrelated so that we don't have to worry about misinformation being continued on the network. We have a comms team and a playbook that would utilize every facet of the city and government and our partners to be able to publicly address what is going on and give them a clear picture on what safety looks like both through tonight and tomorrow. And I've also authorized that all our staff be pulled in so that we have a full contingent of personnel to be able to do any manual activities to maintain service tomorrow.
Well, Yusuf, I will have you know that the union have started sending us messaging as well around their safety and their membership safety. So stay tuned for that firecracker to be delivered to your doorstep very shortly. James, our honorary CISO, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I look at from the way we're looking at it, the CEO's kind of tied our hands, so to speak, with the aspects of because of the statement to the public. How we have to, you look at it like, as he said, careful and deliberate moves is kind of how we need to proceed here. We're not really able to to have any true oscillation in service once, say for example, if we did not eradicate this properly. So what we have done, we've been spinning our microservices down, and we'll continue to investigate because we will want to make sure that we get this right and get it right the first time. And as we move forward, we'll make sure we're going to be focusing on more non-technical, making sure the messaging's out there. We want to do this once again so we don't have that oscillation of service for our constituents and cause more skepticism.
All right, Alex, I think you wanted to chime in briefly, and I think then Shrey, you've got from the SOC side, you've got some updates for us. So Alex, I'll turn it over to you, and then Shrey, back to you then.
Well, we are a bit confused. The IT and SecOps team are not in line with what the CEO just said from a status perspective. Where'd that messaging come from? Who told him that?
My guess is Kim.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was going to say I'm a bit disappointed to be called in at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like we had a playbook and we didn't follow it. We should have had a clear path on sign-off on any messaging. And I was coming here today to ask the SOC team and the technical, and Vivian, the technical response coordinator, to give me a very clear message we can go with, but I'm as surprised by that announcement. So we're gonna need to look at how we recover from that while maintaining some transparency, but that's going to be a difficult task. The other communication piece I think we're really missing is we need to get a script ready for the frontline staff. If we think this is stressful here in the background trying to collect this information, they're dealing with the public. There's a ton of misinformation that's going out. We need to be better at getting in front and supporting them. So I really think we need to prioritize getting them that script and getting additional resources on the front line to help with the public.
Also, Alex, I will tell you that the CEO did text me saying, Ali, I don't care what the security and IT folks are saying at this point. We're not securing data, we're securing arrival times. Sounds very metaphorical and poetic, but definitely our CEO is on something expired, but we'll deal with that separately. Yusuf, Vivian, I do want to come back to you. And this is a question that's popping up online as well. In the previous module, from a containment perspective, Alex and team, with the tacit blessings of the board, said, sure, go ahead, take down the PA systems, take down the communication systems, manual. Let's go manual. But there was no clarity on what does even going manual in the transit system even mean. Are we seeing issues where bus operators, train operators, light rail transit operators are facing difficulties as well, given the shifts in, we don't even know if our data is accurate at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. We are officially out of Sharpies. That is a huge problem because we're using a lot of handheld signs with Sharpies right now. The operators are incredibly stressed out. Without a root cause analysis, we cannot talk about eradication. We cannot talk about when things are going to get back online. So they don't know if this is going to be, the situation all day or all night or all week. So we're scrambling as much as we can to coordinate with IT and SecOps to understand the root cause. We've never really tested a full-scale spinning down of all those microservices, which are all very interconnected. So we have some ideas on how we can iteratively start to bring them back up, but this is going to be a highly iterative process with a lot of testing along the way, and it feels a lot like we're fixing the plane while we're flying it. So that's, on the technical side, that's part of it. Operationally, I'm with Kim, and we need to be getting better support and scripted messaging and more Sharpies and signage and support to the operators and all the frontline staff on the ground.
All right. There's a couple of things that are coming in. Shrey, I do want to go with you, and I know that you have some questions for our experts from Trend Micro over here. But before I go to you, Lionel, I want to draw your attention to something. And this is Vivek has had to step into another board meeting, which on another board that he's a part of. But he did text me saying, hey, I saw this on ODTN News that Boeing Airbus 320, I believe, has ordered 1,000 of its fleet to be grounded and not to be in operation because of a software issue, something to that effect. This is leading us to believe that there's a national potential attack happening on transportation systems. From a BCP perspective, I do want you to start thinking about, if we take the trains off, do we have enough buses? What do we need to do there? So while you ponder on that, and we'll come to you for an answer there. Shreya, I'm going to turn it over to you because you have some technical updates for you. Also to the audience, we do have volunteers with mics now. So if you do, they had them before, I just didn't notice it. So if you do have a question, just shout it out. Just say, I have a question, and then the volunteer will bring you a mic. To the online folks, I will be coming to your questions shortly. Shreya, take it away.
Thank you, Ali. Past couple of hours, SOC has been working day in, day out, hourly, back to back upon certain things. We have made many discoveries. Vivian, thank you for the note of bringing the microservice back. We are trying to keep things up as much as possible. Lucas, firstly, I will be requiring your inputs right now. I have a couple of points to make. SOC has made certain assumptions, and as an industry expert, I'm pretty sure that you will be able to give us good insights on what we'll be requiring. What you're seeing on screen, this alert represents a major escalation in a way. The API key account exhibiting anomalous behavior. The compromise key which was flagged to be was dev sts test. The nomenclature itself recommends me and suggests me that this is going to be from a dev or UAT environment, and test itself focuses upon and overadds upon both the points. We figured out that one of the things, this particular API key throughout the time period was performing many get and put operations in particular. Now for the folks who wants to understand, get operations simply signifies where you can fetch data from. Put is where you are storing information back into the database, meaning we are trying to see people exfiltrating and putting in data which loses integrity itself at the end. The compromised resources, I have a couple of them, which this particular API key has communicated with in past 24 hours. For now, the assumption is we have considered all of them compromised. The team, again, they are lacking resources right now, but we are trying to figure out that which are actually compromised or not. But our base assumption is these couple of ones which are mentioned right now, that includes the payroll archives, customer database backups, config backups, the vault, logs, employee records, financial reports, VPN configs, and the SSL certificates. This dashboard shows only 13 API actions, but the storage containers which were touched that this service APIs should never have interacted with, considering the fact that this is a dev API key. This is not operational noise from a SOC perspective. I would love if you can share some insights with us on this, on how we should look at it and how we should proceed along with this.
Yeah, at first it seems that there are some misconfiguration in place, because as you mentioned that those API keys shouldn't be able to access the data, so someone did something wrong. So we might need to check some audit logs for that API key and see, besides that data that we know that this API key was able to access, what else that API key can access that we don't have the visibility right now. And we should start looking at these other paths, because there may be more data that has been compromised that we don't know. Based on what we can see right now, those are very sensitive data that has been leaked, like payroll, VPN configurations, and all of that. So we should be looking at this information because, for example, if they really got access, for example, to the VPN configuration, they may have a backdoor access to the environment at this time and accessing another part of the network that we don't have visibility, right? So we should be also looking for that. Another point is basically what are those IP address, those external IP address? Can we start taking some actions on that? Can we start blocking those IP address? Can we do some sort of sweepings and see if those IP address are accessing anything else on your network? And of course, starting revoking those API keys, making sure that they are still not live on the environment, and then starting to reestablish new API keys. But more important than that is to understand how that API keys was compromised. Because if we don't get to that information, they might see in the environment, they might get another API key, they might get back to the environment. So establishing and understanding that that kind of backdoors that they have in the environment, probably with the VPN or whatever, it's critical at this part to eradicate the threat.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there and say this is super bad. If we can't trust our keys, then we can't trust anything. The fact that it's a dev key that we know is compromised suggests to me that somewhere we are storing keys in code, which, given the tightly coupled microservices architecture that we have, is super bad. So we need an inventory of those API keys. We need to understand where they're stored. We need to understand how quickly we can refresh them. And I'm guessing the answer is not quickly enough. This is a critical step before we can actually move towards eradication. Until we know that we have recycled all the keys, we don't know where this threat might still be lingering. And we could bring other services back online and have the same problem perpetuated or even spread further throughout our network. We don't actually know how to shut this down and eradicate it until we inventory those keys.
Yeah, and just to add to that from Trent Micro point, I think we should also engage the DevOps team because, as was mentioned here right now, there might be some API keys on a GitHub, public-facing GitHub. Maybe someone just got access to it on secrets over there, and then used that API key or that secret to access the environment. So some stuff like that that's very simple, but it's very critical to the environment, and it happens a lot. So I would be looking for that from some of those code repositories because there's very likely that these API keys probably there.
Do we have an AppSec program?
All right, go ahead. Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, I was saying, do we have an AppSec program? Wires those keys and make sure we contain that risk?
Shrey?
So we do use key management services through and through. Unfortunately, I can't disclose the name of it. However, we do have certain protocols to rotate them properly. The surprising thing is a dev key is in the production environment. That's the one thing which we are solely focusing at the moment from a SOC perspective, that why is this even existing? Why is this not rotated or even cleared out, and how did it even reach the production environment? It should not be there. On top of it,
Yeah,
even
but
if it reached,
Shrey, here's the thing, and CISO, I kind of need you on this. He's just saying the surprising thing. It's like, surprise, it's there. Who's in charge of this environment? You folks are. So why is this a surprise?
No. We're not in charge of the applications. That would be the development team.
But we have already gone through a RIF. We have put you in charge of these environments as of right now, and the security practices and how keys are rotated fall under you. Why am I the CISO suddenly? I don't know. But James, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, no, this is definitely I'm going to say a strong oversight, miscoordination from the DevOps team to the security to the SecOps. With this here, I mean, we don't really have any ground to stand on. I would say this aspect. And unfortunately that's looks to be the case in this time. So when we're looking at this, I think there's a couple things that need to be happening. One of them is making sure that we were finding, looking in our source code, looking actually at the versioning, determine, is this something that has been sitting there forever? This is something that we have the system for the last 6 months. And so we actually then have an understanding of, how long this is a potential entry point. The other side of it is who did this? I'd really want to know their name and number. To see if this was introduced, say something was introduced in the last couple of weeks or something like that as well. Because we're now seeing this, as it stands, I think we're going to be looking at additional playbooks. We're not just looking at a system compromise. We're looking at a privacy breach, given the vast extent of what we're seeing these different systems and resources in front of us that we now need to address. So that's something that we'll need to start playing out and bringing into play as well.
Now you want to talk about playbooks. You guys are all sort of signing blame and talking about keys and all that stuff. I need a very clear what is compromised, what is trusted. I have to build a communication. I've got ministries reaching out to me. I've got municipal leaders reaching out to me. The union leaders are reaching out. There's a lot of misinformation. My son just texted me that there's a TikTok going around that someone's gone missing on the bus because they got on the wrong bus because our systems weren't accurately giving information. I need very clear, public-facing explanation of what we can trust, and then figure out how I, message that around the CEO already saying that everything is done and ready.
Vivian, I'll have you go, and then Yusuf. Then I need to hear from Lionel as well. Vivian, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kim, I would hope that we have a bunch of communication specialists who are helping you out with that, because we needed to get that out hours ago. I think that the signs were pretty clear in the, a little earlier today, that we are dealing with an adversary and this is an attack. So we know that it's a deliberately compromised key. To understand the spread of this, we need to know, is this an adversary who's taking advantage or exploiting an operational gap we have, that they were able to get this key and then exploit it? Or are we talking about a fundamental gap in our governance? That'll be something we can talk about after the fact. But now, as we're trying to eradicate, still really need to understand how fast we can cycle those keys and when we can start testing, bringing things back online.
Yusuf and Nilesh, you've been hearing a lot. Yusuf, anything that you want to share right now? I know that you are our Chief Operating Officer. You've had a background in cyber as well. Is there anything else that you want to chime into? And then Nilesh, you and Lionel.
I'm wondering why I haven't fired my incident commander yet, but that's a different conversation. There's a couple things here. One is, the second the first message went on to a system was an indication our system was breached, right? We debated for a long time whether there was an incident, and we haven't executed playbooks properly. And the reason we haven't executed playbooks properly is because we have messaging going out, and Kim is now 12 hours in and asking for definitive answers. My biggest question right now is, why have we not severed our connections safely? And why have we not isolated the public safety systems to the infrastructure that we have to make sure trains continue to run? Buses can run independently. Streetcars can run independently. Our trains are the core issue from a safety perspective. And that's our focus right now, because the one thing that we need to do is ensure public safety and maintain continuity. The forensics for this event are going to take weeks. Right, we know that.
If you can go on mute, Lionel, we'll go to you, and then Nilesh, I'm hearing forensics will take weeks, but we hired you on the premise that everything that takes weeks, you get done in a couple of hours. So I'm hoping that our hiring principles prove true. Lionel, Captain BCP, fill us in.
So absolutely. So to piggyback on what was shared, so we trust the forensic and also all the technical team to make sure that everything is actually contained, and we can issue a new communication to confirm that everything is contained. But at the same time, we want to make sure that all the public will keep building that trust, or we can make sure that we do what people know that we're supposed to do, which is taking them from point A to point B. So that's why we came actually, we'll be working on an official communication where we'll make sure that all the buses and streetcars, people actually have access to it for free for at least the next 24 hours, and we'll make sure that we cover all the different itineraries that they usually do by train. And that way we want to make sure from a business perspective that we're not losing client for unlimited time, right? And then also, STS stands for siberX transit system, and we already hear people saying, oh, actually maybe that means skip the transit system. So we really want to make sure that we're providing alternative ways for people to keep going to where they're supposed to go, and hopefully that buy us more time from a technical perspective to build a new communication and confirm that everything is contained and eradicated.
All right, well, I will come back to that. There's some more information that's coming in terms of what's going on. I do see a hand. I see two hands. I'll take both of them. I saw yours first and then behind. So yours first. If you can say the question, I'll repeat it then here.
So, considering the reduction of team sizes and being overwhelmed, at what point do you recognize that maybe we don't have the expertise that we need to resolve this in-house, and you start reaching out to your third-party vendors?
Okay, you can give the mic to the next person to ask their question. Let's have their question as well, and then I'll take them both. Thank you for that. Is it turned on? Yeah, we'll give it to, you got it? Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, just a question for Lila and Lina. I was gonna say, can we afford to take like more of an economical impact by letting like clients like go on transit for free and stuff? Because we already took like a huge economical impact from this incident in general, and there's gonna be a lot of people from the corporate side who are gonna obviously come back at this as well.
Perfect. So we had two questions. I'll stick with two for now. One was, at what point do we realize we don't have the smarts at the table and we need external support? And the other one is, can we afford going with the free service? Yusuf, we'll go to you and then Lionel, and then we'll continue. Yusuf?
My input on the first question is almost immediately, right? That should be part of your response playbook. It shouldn't be a question that you realize 12 hours in. You call those folks in, and then you call every partner that you have to say you need help. The second is the decision to offer free services on the transit system wouldn't be the economic impact. The actual impact of people not being able to get to where they go to, impact to the public for jobs and people actually moving is the economic impact, in my opinion. So there's no question, as a COO, I would authorize that immediately to make sure that we're not dealing with backlash from the public saying, hey, I can't pay for the bus that isn't going to arrive.
Exactly. And I can also add to that based on the result that we get from the forensics team, we also make sure that we have support from the cyber insurance companies that we work with, and then hopefully that will also help us to cover, some of the impact from a financial perspective.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for those questions. I'll come to questions now a little later on. We got to move a little bit, but keep them coming. Nilesh, from a forensics perspective, I know that, for example, we've been talking about maybe there's an issue, if I could just put it simply, with the keys and how the rotation was taking place. Now, Alex is telling me rotating keys without a procedure could result in an extended outage. Rotating compromised key will impact microservices that use it, need to have a plan. Based on what you heard from Shrey so far, are there any gaps in the details that he's giving to you from a forensic standpoint?
Ali, I would like to add, I'm just back from vacation last night. I just came to know two of my colleagues have resigned because of the recently enforced return to office mandate. What I would like to do right now is we have already engaged the third party, so we are leveraging their services to investigate. At this point, in my professional opinion, this is full-fledged integrity crisis. So we need to document that as such, and we need to start working on the rebuilding of our system. That's what I would recommend as we investigate further on the root cause of it.
Okay, well, with that said, there's an interesting development that has been shared with us from Reddit, and I know that there were a few questions over here. I will come to you in about 10 minutes. I want to put this out there because Yusuf, Kim, I think you want to pay attention to this. This was posted on Reddit, if I'm not mistaken. It says, cops are overwhelmed. Now I'm not telling you to do it, but if we meet at the Best Buy in Dundas Square and happen to borrow a bunch of things, nobody would respond fast enough. Is this giving us a bit of an insight into the motivations of these attacks?
There's the potential that this is related to it. There's also the potential this is an element that is opportunistic, right? So in the absence of order, and the chaos is going to ensue a little bit, right? In this case, somebody is taking the opportunity to say, hey, while the cops are overwhelmed doing what they are asked to do, and we've compelled them to do based on the issue that we're trying to solve, others are going to take advantage of that. Whether it's related, I think will be determined over the course of time, and that's where law enforcement will help us in terms of how they investigate it, because the benefit of somebody posting this online is they've basically given them an address to to meet at. So it's also a benefit for us to pass that on to law enforcement and law enforcement to meet them there.
Kim, have we put out any announcements telling folks where to even go for accurate information? Like one part of the eradication is dealing with this kind of information going out. What have we done in that regard?
Yeah, no, we're really behind on that. We need to establish a trusted channel of communication. So I mean, I guess I'd ask to confirm from IT and SecOps that we are able to still have control over some of the messaging going out. Or are we setting up a new crisis page? Are we able to use any portion of that public announcement system to put our messaging out, or is that still out of our control?
I can jump in. I can jump in on that one. So our first priority from the moment this started has been public safety. So we have prioritized making sure that we have a reliable source of data that your team can leverage about scheduling and availability and where to meet. We have an emergency, a crisis page up, a temporary page where we know we can post accurate data, and we're also monitoring it for any attempts to tamper with it. On the operational side, we're continuing to get support resources out to our frontline staff and trying to keep things running as best as we can. On the technical recovery on the IT side, we've identified the compromised key, and this is going to be an iterative and cyclical process of we magically built the scripting that we need to reliably rotate our keys as we need them. Poof, it's there because we don't have all day to futz around with this. And we're going to be rotating the keys and iteratively bringing microservices back online while also checking for additional signs of compromise. This means that it's going to take many, many passes with a lot of testing along the way, but we are following the NIST guidelines on how you do this. You restore what you know you can safely. You test it to make sure that the threat has been eradicated. Then you choose the next set of things. You make sure your backups are sound. We rotate the keys. We make sure that all of the secrets are adequately protected. And then we start to do a sanity test to make sure that that increased scope can also be safely brought back online. And this is all prior to full-scale system restoration and recovery. By the way, we're not even there yet. Right now, we're just testing to make sure that we've actually gotten, that we actually have clean systems and clean services running again the way that they're supposed to.
Just very quickly, I'll take your question. I want to address one note on the live chat. So we have quite a few active individuals. One with the screen name Moses, who said somebody saying go and rob from Best Buy has nothing to do with this hack. I will very respectfully disagree. They could, because at this point the motivations of these attackers are not known. From an attribution standpoint, at this point I really don't care, but I do want to understand why are they taking this system down. We do have a responsibility at this point to understand is, while trains can still run, system can still operate, what's the point and the motive behind this? There's no geopolitical messaging. There is a potential, and I'll repeat this, and I said this in the previous session with law enforcement, that if there is a kinetic, physical intention behind this, and I'll be very direct here, to gather and direct people, and I wish George Alcura was here, because he'll definitely say it with that voice. If the idea is to gather people, large crowds of them in a particular area, to execute on something far more nefarious, by that I mean something kinetic, something physical, a physical blast, this is the way to do it, to cause economic disruptions, to impact jobs, to impact the holidays for a bunch of reasons. So this could be a sign as to these attackers, what their motives might be. So I wouldn't downplay it that easily. That said, that was the George Alcura in me speaking. For those of you that know him, you'd know he would say something to that effect. I saw that there was a question from the lady in the front. The mic is coming to you. Just please use the mic so that the online audience can pay attention as well. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ali. I'm Nicolina from Isherwood Associates. I think this question is more for Kim. As we are eradicating the threat, what immediate transparency measures should we put in place to reduce reputational impact, and maintain stakeholder trust. So this has been going on for quite a long time. Public, neither stakeholders know what's going on. And I believe that's better to be transparent as much as you can with your stakeholders when there's a situation like this, rather than hiding what's going on, because mess that's created because they don't know what's going on can be devastating, and reputational risk can be really high at the end.
Yeah, and I do think that's important now, although I would say more critical in this particular part of the incident is the public safety and the getting good information to combat misinformation. I think a lot of the restoring trust is going to have to be in the post-incident messaging and how we address that. I do agree that the transparency is important. It's obviously been a bit hindered by the CEO going and saying everything is good. So now we have to be transparent without looking like we're flip-flopping. But for me as the communication officer, really the important thing is protecting the frontline staff, making sure they're supported, as well as ensuring the public is able to get where they need to safely.
Perfect. And I will add to this, Lucas, you mentioned to me that there was a Trend Micro report that speaks to an attack of this nature. To those watching online, the link to that report will be shared shortly. I don't know if it's directly related, but there might be some insights there. Yusuf, I know you want to chime in. I know the technical folks also have a lot of questions. So Yusuf, I'll turn it over to you.
There's something that we haven't talked about yet, and I just had a sidebar conversation with Kim, because there's a great question that was just asked about trust and transparency. There's trust in the system working, which is getting people from A to B, but that API key issue resulted in a lot of data exfiltration. And some of those items were customer databases, financial records for employees, other things that are a much different issue that we're going to have to deal with over the course of time, which results in a lot of different actions being taken, both from a legal perspective, an insurance perspective, a privacy perspective, as well as potential the ramifications from the public around that, inclusive of class actions as a result of the lack of security around their data. Right. So while we're trusted to make sure that we can get people from A to B, we're also trusted in this case to maintain security around their information. And that seems to be another element of this that compounds the issue from a trust and transparency perspective. So Kim, I think there's a conversation here around that stream, but at the same time, I'm still not convinced that we have a clear path to containment in this war room.
Sure, I see you wanted to chime in.
Absolutely, Ali. One thing, it is good to discuss about trust. One thing, it is good to, share information with the public, and it is absolutely necessary to do so while these things are happening. However, it is very important right now in this particular phase of eradication to circle back to the technical things. Vivian brought out a good point about cleaning up microservices, bringing them back up online, rotating keys and stuff. But from a SOC perspective, we definitely need a proper direction so that it could be shared with the dev team as well. Here, we discussed about the architecture earlier as well. It's pretty clear that there are many bottlenecks. It's pretty clear that there are many single points of failures as well. And I would love Trend Micro's input as well over here from Lucas, that, when it comes to such distributed architecture, when there are situations, when there are bottlenecks, when there are situations like message bus being exploited, even though one of the microservices is cleaned, the ramifications of a persistent bug in things like message bus or any other compromised element or an entity within this entire infrastructure, what should be the best step forward right now, considering these styles on what to do? What do you recommend to us right now?
Yeah, at this point, I would say that looking at the architecture over here, starting with the API key, revoking all of that would be interesting. I think when we have like a microarchitecture like that with services, segmentations, and all of that, you shouldn't be reusing the API key. You should be using one API key for one specific microservice. And it didn't happen. You were using the same API key for multiple services, and then that's causing the issue of bringing other systems down. So that is like a really problem at this point. And then I think it was mentioned that some of the service were getting back in a compromised state. So it would be important to check on that CI/CD pipeline, for example, that is on the screen. If they were able, for example, to get into your images registry, and then they infected, for example, one of your container images, and then because of that, the whole CI/CD pipeline it's compromised because they got access to that image that is in the registry, and then whenever do a new deployment on the deployment server, the image get back to production compromised. So that would be another thing to look at to make sure that the images and the repository that you are getting those images is not compromised as well. So we can make sure that whenever start eradicating and then rebuilding the environment in the next phase, they are safe and there's no information like sensitive information or a backdoor in there.
Can I jump in here?
Yes. And I think Nilesh also had something to add. Thank you, Lucas.
I'm looking at this diagram, and it's interesting to me. From a services perspective, I see payments, I see ticketing. What I don't see is safety systems, right? I don't see a single thing in here that relates to a safety system that would have prevented us from shutting this down, right? And then dealing with it offline, or taking it offline and dealing with it through the course of business while maintaining the ability to continue. Our business continuity process, which I just read, does include backup radios and backup processes that will allow us to maintain communications with all the drivers and operators. So what are we waiting for?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to step outside of the role play for just one quick second to point out that a complex, tightly coupled microservices architecture like this is a very complicated attack surface. And we talked in previous modules about some of the security gaps. If you're tuning in to the behind the scenes interview, I'm going to come back to that at some point. But jumping back into the character that I'm playing here, that's absolutely true. I don't think that we have the proper segregation, separation of concerns between the safety systems and the business systems here, which means that as we're trying to recover, it's really, really messy. We don't have, or it sounds like we don't have that well-rehearsed playbook of what that first line of essential safety systems is to bring up to be minimally operable. We, haven't had the clarity of what is a priority to bring back online, and the way that this is grouped, and from what we know about how this has unfolded, we haven't tested those combinations either and the dependencies between the services. It's all just a bunch of microservices that live together in a happy ecosystem. So this is making it really, really challenging. And it's also making it very difficult for us to do anything in parallel because we have to proceed very slowly and testing along the way because we don't have benchmarks to rely on.
Ali, I want to jump in. We've lost a lot of time. I want to propose if we can start rebuilding activities in parallel while we're investigating this for time efficiency purpose.
Alex and Shrey, I'm going to turn to you. I will say online we're having more conversations that are questioning our DevOps, and I know you've tried to distance yourself from there safely, but I will not obviously let that distance prevail. Questions such as a dev key shouldn't even work in production. There's a lot of concerns that are coming up here, but Alex, I'll turn it over to you, also taking a leaf from Nilesh's recommendation.
Well, hindsight's 2020, and maybe we should have sent our developers on secure application development training after all. Whoops. Unfortunately, as much as we want to, joke about this is unfortunately bad behavior that does happen from time to time in development teams. And they're not the bad guys. They were never enabled or trained to do this properly, and definitely never incentivized. Fast and cheap. That's how we build code. So, let's go back to the dev team and, propose some of our containment actions. Again, we're going to drive this, but we do need their subject matter expertise. First and foremost, I think, this is where it gets blurry. Like, we're in the eradication module, but it's cyclical. As we unveil more details, we might be back to containment or maybe even detection and analysis. So a key was discovered to be likely compromised. We're tying it back to a bunch of anomalous activities. Safe to say we should revoke that key. Unfortunately, with these highly coupled systems, there is a risk, and we've found that this development key is not just used once, it's used all over the place. So if we revoke it, we actually take down the systems even more. Now that might be okay. We're already at a degraded operational state, and there's this physical side of our business, which is trains moving, and then there's the digital side, which is providing information to our ridership, to our partners, and also making money. So we're going to take that down. It's probably going to impact the revenue a bit, but I think that we've made that as an acceptable loss. So we're going to work with our development team to strategize how to do that key rotation. It is what we want to do. Is it turnkey? Absolutely not. It's the same thing when you rotate user credentials and MFA tokens. It will saturate your help desk and create a secondary denial of service to your organization. So we're going to need to work with them to get moved to a point of where we have eradicated that unauthorized access, and then we need to start validating the integrity of our systems and continue to threat hunt. Looking where else was this key potentially used. Remember, we have some limitations of logs because on the IT side we've got good logs, but most of the logs on the dev side are on ephemeral systems, so some of those logs are already gone, but none are being centrally stored on an immutable system like a SIM solution. So those are going to be some challenges, but we do need to work with our development team collaboratively. Pooping on them for doing bad behavior during an incident is a really good way to prolong these incidents, because we're really creating more friction, playing the blame game, which is, again, really reflective of a bad culture across the board, and is probably going to slow us down even further.
All right. You have one person clapping for you, so Alex, good for you. We have about 7 minutes to go, and I still do want to get to the bottom of a very clear explanation of what we think has happened over here with some certainty. But that said, and my screen will pop up right now, and Lionel and Yusuf and everyone else, this might intrigue you. So these are conversations that are going back and forth. I can't believe this, and these are between operators. They're literally telling us we must remain on site until further notice. We've been here for hours, no break, no updates, just hold your post. Same here. I asked if we could rotate people out, and the supervisor said the authorities aren't authorizing any movement because of the situation outside. Exactly. They don't care if we're shaking or scared or exhausted. The city's falling apart, and we're supposed to just smile at crowds that think that this could be a terrorism attack. And with that, there's been a lot of pressure that has been placed on the city right now. The mayor has got involved as well. And I think I do have a recording of an audio statement that the mayor just put out on the radio. I'm not sure if we can hear it, but I'll give this a try.
Enough. I've had enough of this. The entire city is choking because our transit system collapsed before sunrise, and every one of you is pointing fingers instead of fixing it. Look outside. Gridlock from end to end, stations overflowing, emergency services delayed, businesses demanding answers. And I'm left holding the bag while you all hide behind process. Councillor Rourke, I warned you 3 months ago about system hardening. You dismissed it as unnecessary spending. Well, look at downtown now, paralyzed. And you, Councillor Vega. Your committee was responsible for public communication readiness. Today, the city sent out 3 different contradictory alerts. People are panicking because they don't know who to trust. That's on you. Councillor Hayden, spare me the excuses. Transit governance falls under your portfolio. How does a metropolitan system fail this spectacularly without anyone raising alarms? If I hear we're assessing one more time, I'm shutting down your entire oversight panel. I need action. I need accountability. And I need it now. If this chaos isn't contained by the next briefing, I will start naming names publicly. I'm not going down with the ship because this council couldn't get its act together.
I don't know how that made it into public circulation. One fun fact, somebody online said, that doesn't sound like Mayor Olivia Chow. Another person responded, oh, she was out sick today. Vivian, go ahead.
Yeah, my first question was going to be, where's our deepfake guy? Like, can somebody please make sure that that's real? Because that did not. Anyway, assuming that it is, for the moment, that it is factual, all the political stuff aside, that is not our problem. What I heard out of that is that we need more money. We needed more money before this happened. So that's going to be awesome. We need to, we obviously do not have a business restoration plan that is sufficiently staged to deal with a system-wide shutdown. Whatever we've tested, it hasn't accounted for a situation as all-encompassing as this. Just simply having those tiers between safety-related systems, first priority to bring back on. What's our plan to bring empty buses into the subway stations so that our staff who need to take a break or need a moment of privacy have somewhere to go? Like things like that, that should all have been part of our operational resilience plan. And we can talk about that stuff in the lessons learned at the end of the day as well.
All right, we have exactly 5 minutes to conclude. Alex, from your perspective right now, everyone's pushing us for some clarity. There are questions around, why weren't pen tests done? We had Vivian saying, developers don't want friction. Pen tests are too expensive. There's a lot of things right now that are going on. Can you tell us clearly, to contain this, what did we do from an eradication perspective? What have we found, and what are we moving forward with?
Well, I should correct something. We did do an automated pen test, so I thought we were good. With that in mind,
a counselor just texted. She's listening in via the stream as well. What do you mean by automated pen test? Did you ask ChatGPT to scan your systems?
I can't reveal our sources and methods.
So you did, okay.
But again, going back to what we are doing at the end of the eradication phase is I think we've agreed that we are going to rotate keys. We do recognize that's going to break a few more eggs, but at that token, we're already sort of at a degraded state. And this is a bit of a scorched earth, but probably the most appropriate response. This also allows us to rebuild our system, work with our developers to validate the integrity of it, and prepare to bring it back online down the road. Now, again, there's been a lot of concerns. Again, this is a critical piece of infrastructure to the community and also the country. The system, the train system, has been around for 40 years or so, well before computers were invented. But, or at least the computers we like to use. But that being said, we have made these integrations in the past, and we do pull telemetry off of the ancient system into our new modern next generation data platform. So while we don't think that there is any likelihood, we do need to recognize that somebody had essentially a highly privileged key that should never have been in the production, let alone privileged in a production environment. So we do want to do a threat hunt across various aspects of our organization. One of those would be was there any compromise between the apparent air gap between our digital systems and our operating technologies, but also where else was that key developed? As mentioned, we do have some challenges both on staffing and velocity of doing those investigations, because that data is not in a SIM. It is going to be a very manual process sifting through the data that we have available. And also that data is not directly available to the security team, the actual forensic investigators. We are going to rely on our development team to pull those files and then move them over to a computer that we can work on, potentially install a SIM on there to expedite some of the data crunching. So we are, I believe, getting very close to fully eradicating the threat and now it's about really bringing our systems to a stable nominal state, validating that in the next module, but also recognizing that we should and may have to go back to a detection and analysis if we detect any further concerns.
It's cyclical, I get it. The mayor does have a message for you, which I'll read out to you. We have exactly 3 minutes to go. I see a hand up. Please, please go ahead. The mic will turn on shortly. Maybe in 5 seconds. We're almost there. Yes, we are.
Hi, I just wanted to add a quick element that I think in all of this we might be missing, and it's the intelligence element. I haven't heard too much about that, and in particular when Yusuf mentioned the data exfiltration, and typically in incidents, what you would have in parallel is you'd look at what potentially could have been accessed and exfiltrated, and then go in the background maybe with an intelligence provider, with typically a team, an internal one, and work with that to get more information with regards to the incident. I didn't hear much about that, and in this case, obviously we're resource strained, but that would be extremely important in order for us to be able to maybe find clues with regards to cause, who it is. We don't know how long these people have been potentially in our systems, right? So it's great that we're doing all this advanced work with the API keys and we're getting it secure, but like, what if they have other accesses? We're talking ransomware here, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that was my point.
Dude, we weren't sending logs to SIM. You think we have that kind of CTI practice? You're absolutely right. There's a massive intelligence aspect to this that we're not talking about in this. But yes, in the real world, that would be a very real thing. What I've been afraid of, and I can say this now that the module's wrapping up and you can't spring it on me, Ali. What I've been afraid of this whole time was like a SolarWinds type scenario where like, oh no, this is a bad actor that's been around for a long time. We have this like really insidious software supply chain exploit that's, they're gonna require months of eradication, not, days and hours. That's what I've been really worried about this whole time. But now you can't do it to me.
Maybe in the lessons learned, but I don't think you're on that module. So, all right, you'll get away with it this time around. All right, we are close to the conclusion at this point of time. Yusuf, I think you wanted to add something at all?
I was going to ask Vivian what the dwell time is for this threat actor.
Well, if
no,
you know
I think she brings up a great point, which is, and Yadik's a great question, which is the intelligence side of this, which is a facet of every good security operations center. Right, like that containment stream that one side of the team is working on against a forensic stream, which may be the same resources or others, plus your intelligence apparatus within it, is looking at all that concurrently. Part of your IR partners' engagement, and part of the other thing that we haven't mentioned, which is STS is a public entity within the local government. So the team that would have been brought in immediately would have been the government cyber support, which is CCCS in Canada. But that's another element that would be looking at that almost immediately, which is ideology, TTP, IOCs, anything that would help mitigate the issue quickly.
Yeah, and I know some folks in the audience are also posting on the chat. Thank you. There's a lot of questions about the insider. One person saying by now the insider might have also left the country and is working from somewhere else. So your situation is far more dire than what you think it is. But we'll accept those eradication steps for the purpose of this exercise and the knowledge that has come out. I will repeat to everyone that's online, I'm seeing a lot of questions. I appreciate it. Also realize we are constrained by time. The idea here is to bring out as many of the points as possible. Not all of them can be brought up, but hopefully in the lessons learned, I will cover much of that. For the audience that's here and watching online, we'll take a break for about 25 minutes, return at 2:35 with recovery, and then a short lessons learned module. The mayor has been tuning in, has not yet responded to any of the questions from comms, but did send a text out to all of us. You are the digital conductors of this system. Let's keep the digital bus moving. Whatever that means. See you in approximately 20 to 25 minutes for Module 4. Thank you.